watching the Sisaundra show, and as my late great cousin John Lewis would say, never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Now let's see who's gotten into some good trouble recently. Please help me welcome owner and creator of HVMAN, Mr. Troy Gregory. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. To be here. Well, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
So before we jump into what you're doing, I'd love to talk about where you're coming from. Right?
Yeah.
So tell us about your life. You were homeless for 15 years.
Yes, indeed. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. At a young age, I was adopted and emancipated from my birth family, As time grew on, my adopted family emancipated me from them.
Oh, wow.
So for 15 years, from 13 to 28, I spent that time off and on the streets. I encountered a lot of different people, obviously. One thing I learned about the world is you could find the brightest minds in the darkest parts of the world. And that means that sometimes, especially during my journey of me being homeless, I ran across a lot of people who were homeless that were extremely intelligent and extremely smart. And I used their guidance to help me navigate the street even better, and not in a way to say that it's something that I wanted to keep going, or pushing forward within life. So when I came down to Florida, I took matters into my own hands. And I turned my life around,
Yes, you have.
Graduated from college and,
Really?
started a business.
So where did you graduate from?
Valencia College, actually.
Really? That's wonderful. Valencia is a fantastic college.
Amazing college.
It's a fantastic college. So tell me the most traumatic experience that you had while you were homeless. I'm sure there were a few, but if you reflect back,
definitely a few.
What made you finally say, okay, life's got to change. I've got to get up and do this. Was there an experience that happened to you?
I have a phrase. I like to say I bought a ticket to someone's show, but prior to me buying a ticket to this show, what happened was I was involved in a lot of black market activity at the time. I had opened up a black market with the newsstands of New York, and I figured out how to cut off their supplier. While I was homeless on the street and doing that, I was involved in a lot of partying. I went over to 500 raves while I was in New York. And
oh, wow.
I had a really bad experience with somebody giving me something that they claimed to be one thing, but it turned out to be another. And that led to me having to fight for my life for 24 hours. And because a lot of my friends at the time were also involved in some illegal activity at the time, I couldn't go to the hospital because if they would have called the ambulance, it would have put us all at risk.
Everybody in trouble.
So
wow.
I fought for my life at 14th Street Union Square for several hours. When you do come back, because I do believe that what I saw was it seemed like it was purgatory in my eyes.
Wow.
I just saw a doorway of light, and it kept skipping, and every time I got close to it, it moved. So when I came back, and when you first come back from an experience like that, your body is totally numb, so you don't have no feeling. And for me to be able to register where I was at took me a while too, but I did fully come back from that. A couple of months later, I found myself in a McDonald's with a friend of mine, and this is what I mean by I bought a ticket to someone's show. Someone was like, you should go down to Florida. It's warm, it's nice, there's an opportunity out there. It's sunny, you could probably find the love of your life.
Yes. Why not? That
Why
sounds
not?
inviting.
It
right?
does sound inviting. So I was like, okay. I went, took a bus down, and I literally came down with nothing. Nothing.
So you came down with nothing, and now you've transitioned from being homeless to a business owner.
Yes, indeed.
Please tell us how that transpired.
Amazing story.
Yes, so far it really is an amazing story, a beautiful story.
I think my friend will appreciate this. So one day I got frustrated. I was in college. Now there's a difference in culture. Me being here for several years, my mind didn't fully adjust to it as of yet. So I kind of got frustrated with the way things were unfolding without giving up too much detail. And I started before I left for San Francisco, because I did go to San Francisco. But what happened was, me and a person, I love drum and bass music. I love all types of music, And so at the time, we wanted to open up a drum and bass podcast to go against the European drum and bass that was out there, because I could produce at the time drum and bass music. The idea was called the Ghost Project. Unfortunately, me and my friend, the connection got severed. Nothing negative, but just life goes in its own direction.
Right.
I wound up going to San Francisco and started developing the idea from scratch. I was homeless in San Francisco for 6 months at the time. I went out there without fully knowing what was going on or what to expect, and I will say I experienced a lot, but I started drawing the logo inside of a Starbucks. I went ahead and designed the idea almost around it, but I wanted it to be a universal collective. I had different people from different states that agreed to it, to come together and do different creative projects or do musical projects at the time. It tanked because I was homeless and I had no foundation to stand on.
Understandable.
Came back to Orlando, started attending college again. At this time, I ran into a friend of mine who is now an amazing friend of mine by the name of Chandra, and he was in UCF. And when we bonded together, we started doing events.
Is this how you created your brand, HVMAN?
No, this leads up to HVMAN.
This is leading up to HVMAN.
There's a parent company that owns HVMAN that nobody knows about named the Ghost Project.
Okay.
So I went ahead through mansion parties with him. I then fast forward and appeared on NPR for Incandescence, the Nightwalker Festival, right?
Sweet.
Which was a festival I put together that was a glow-in-the-dark festival. After coming off of NPR, fast forward 2 years later, I fell into homelessness again, and I hadn't done much work with the Ghost Project, and someone had walked up to me while I was in college and was like, "Troy, I think an issue that you have is you do for you in the Ghost Project, you haven't really tied the local community into it, And some way, somehow, I was sitting there, and I never forget how it happened. I was on a young lady's couch, and I just started drawing. I drew the logo first that you see on the shirt.
Yes.
After the logo came, the conception almost built itself through me, and I like to say there are some ideas that you think of, and there's some ideas that come to you. I feel like HVMAN was an idea that came to me.
That just came.
Because it started building itself where I was supposed to have a 15-minute segment on someone else's show on Valencia College.
So would you explain what HVMAN is and what do you do with the various cultures?
HVMAN is a multimedia platform where we encourage people to find truth in another person's perspective, bringing people together one culture at a time. My farthest reach has been to Australia, and I've also interviewed a young lady from Sudan.
That's powerful.
HVMAN, man.
So with you connecting with all those various cultures, what have you learned in their truth?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Thank you very much.
I'm used to asking the good questions. Now I'm sitting here.
You're used to asking the questions. The roles have
time.
reversed.
The roles
so truly, like you've heard a lot of truth. And so please share with me that.
I think the one thing that I've learned is everybody can learn from each other. It's about sitting down and really giving that person the time of day to hear them out. And not only that, also how the person tells the story can impact you.
Yes.
Yes. And that's very important. That's actually the key to how I run my platform is how does this person talk about what is it that they're into? Because you could be a janitor and you could be sweeping, but you could talk about how the particles of dust reflect off the sunlight in a certain way, and that would draw a whole different picture about what your job is.
Yes.
So.
You're a deep brother. So it's very interesting. You said it's something about homeless people or people who live in the dark or in the shadows. There are very intellectual people who have become homeless, who have experienced anything from life, from not being able to affordable housing. There's so many different reasons why people become homeless, but that does not change the fact that God has created purpose in them, passion in them, and the intelligence to share and articulate their journey. And so for you to reach out to people, no matter where the socioeconomic level is, it's so powerful, it's so beautiful. So what should we know, rather, about the different cultures that you interview, that you talk with and engage in truth?
Do you mean in terms of what is something about the culture that most people won't know?
Well, you mentioned that one thing we should know is that we can learn something from everyone.
This is true.
What else have you learned in engaging with these people?
I've learned to deal with people not based on the way they look,
Yes.
but based on who they are as the individual,
Yes.
who they are as a human.
And
I think
that takes getting to know them,
it takes getting to
giving
know
them the opportunity to share who they are, right?
Indeed, but that also leads into asking the right questions. You know, knowing that you're asking a question that will make this individual not only feel comfortable with answering the question, but also want to engage with you in a way that's like, this hasn't made certain stories come out of me in a very long time, right? And outside of that, I think that oftentimes, especially me being African American, you know, I faced adversity from a wide range of individuals. Some individuals who look like me and some individuals who don't look like me, right? But one thing I've learned was throughout that all, you have to, I want to make sure I say this correct. You have to make sure that once again, you're dealing with the person as an individual, but you're also not judging them for their shortcomings in terms of what they know,
Correct.
who they are, where they may be at in life,
Circumstances,
right?
anything
Circumstances,
like that, yes.
right? And
I
I know
agree.
that sometimes that may conflict with our boundaries that we have personally, but giving a lending ear, because you never know who that person may be. Perfect example, I did not know that when I reached out on Facebook, I would be here right now. I did not know that. But
Well,
I'm
we
here.
are so glad that you reached out and that you are here sharing your story with us. I would love to know, how do you cope with homelessness, having lived in homelessness for that period of time, for 15 years? How do you cope with it today? You're in your daily life. Is it challenging?
It can be challenging. I'll go ahead and say that I think sometimes when you share your story with other individuals, it could have a positive or a negative reaction from that individual.
Well,
you
this
know?
is a no judgment zone up in here. So we are very happy to
for that.
have you.
Thank you.
This is not about me, it's about you. But
Yes,
I will
indeed.
say that I spent at least 18 years of my life from when I was born until I left home with homeless people, with transient people, working in the fields and all of that stuff. So you sitting here with me brings joy to my heart. It says that you made it out just like I did.
Thank you.
So there is no judgment. I'm very proud of you.
I would like to piggyback off of one thing too concerning
ahead.
the daily struggle. I came up with the understanding, or maybe not. I didn't come up with it. I think the world presents it to you. But there's an understanding that all of us are skating on ice, right? Mentally, all it takes is 2 or 3 wrong decisions and
you
a
could
couple
fall
of
in.
emotional circuits to not connect the right way, and you could go down.
Yes.
And so what I have to do is, when I wake up before I go to my job that I work at now, I might meditate or I might speak positive affirmations to myself. And another thing that helps me keep my mentality in check is paying it forward without expecting anything back.
Yes.
I don't expect anything back when I help people. I don't. When I hold that door open, or when I'm working with a housekeeper and I just happen to move the cart, or because I work at a hotel, I work for the Marriott, or if I go ahead and I may see somebody that needs help, they might call me, and I might just give them the money and be like, don't give it back.
Right.
You know?
You just
I just do
being
it
that good Samaritan,
because
expecting nothing.
expecting nothing, right?
Yes.
I mean,
I just heard you shout out, tell us where you work. So I just want to say thank you, Marriott. Thank you for seeing Troy for who he is.